Hi, everyone. This is Tommi Vincent, host of In Her Words, a Tommi Vincent podcast. And today we have joining us at the table Renee Washington. Renee is a sports reporter and host working with ESPN, Fox Sports, and MLB Bro. Retired three-time Division First All-American and Hall of Fame soccer player. She is a motivational speaker, entrepreneur, and author. Renee is the founder of the Planted, Not Buried organization focused on empowering others through education and access to resources. Welcome to the table, Renee. I am grateful that you will stay a while with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you carving out time to allow me to have a seat at the table with you and talk with you. So thank you, Tommi.
Absolutely. And I know that you and we have been working on getting this scheduled to have this opportunity. So I believe because of the tearing of just the scheduling portion of things, that this is going to be an amazing conversation.
Oh, without a doubt. Everything happens for a reason, and timing really is everything. So I'm glad that it worked out, that we could start off the new year having this conversation.
Absolutely. So my very first question for you is, who is Renee Washington?
Gosh, that in itself could be the entire show. I am, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm an aunt, I'm a woman. I'm somebody that's very inspired to do something different. I'd like to consider myself a trailblazer. I'm someone that's not very complacent with just getting by and doing the bare minimum. I'm extremely ambitious, and I'm someone that has always found myself trying to figure out what's next. Like I have a lot of different talents and a lot of interests and hobbies and passion. Some I haven't even tapped into fully yet. So I am a woman of many that wears many hats and is proud to just carry and be a part of so many different great things in my life, whether in sports, family, in my faith, and whatever that may be, to just be able to embrace all of it in the best way I possibly can.
So let's talk about you identifying yourself as a trailblazer. And when you say that, because when people are blazing a trail, it's very intentional. And the hope is that others will have an opportunity to glean from that trail that has
Mm.
been established. So when you consider yourself to be that, what are some things that you hope that you deposit along the way that other women will have an opportunity to benefit from?
Yeah, there's many ways that I'm trying to be a pioneer. One, as a black woman, is just that representation. You know, there are many people that I've spoken with, male and female, that have said I've inspired them in some way by just my career, and even parents that have said thank you because of you, my child saw you on TV or saw you excelling in soccer and knew they could do the same. So, as a black woman, that's one way I'm definitely trying to pioneer. But also, I've been told many times, especially earlier on in my career, that I'm trying to do too much and I'm going to burn myself out. And I'm like, look, we all struggle with balance in some way, shape, or form. It does not get easier. And I only have one life to live. So why not, while I'm young, especially, do as much as I can? I don't have kids. I'm not married. I'm like, you can make your choices. I'm going to make the choices best for me. So even trailblazing in that sense, that regardless how many people tell you no or don't hire you or tell you you're doing too much or question you in that sense and doubt you, you can pursue whatever you want to do. And I know, as a reporter specifically, I've covered every sport. I've covered college and professional sports. I've worked in every medium of TV, radio, podcasting, digital, all these different spaces that I'm working in. That's something in itself that I've had question. And it's like, I'm going to be as versatile as I can. I played sports. I coached sports at the Division 1 level as well. And for me, it's not enough to just cover one sport. I need to do more. And that's something I've always embraced, that my parents taught me, of being 10 times better than everybody else. It started as an athlete, but that same mindset continues. And embracing that to also, in a sense, trailblaze and show others, do not settle for what is the bare minimum. If you can keep going, if you can stretch that limit and do a little bit more, why not? So there's multiple ways that I'm trying to inspire the next generation, or even just within all people of all backgrounds, which is where Planted Not Buried comes from, of all backgrounds, having that inspiration that you can push the envelope and be whatever you want to be. Honestly, regardless what you look like or anything else, you can pursue your goals.
Yes, absolutely. And, versatility creates opportunity
Bingo.
because when you are able to have skill sets in a variety of genres and just possess things that allow for you to move in many spaces, it creates opportunity because you show up prepared in a way that other people may not be. And there are times when you potentially could be in one space and then the opportunity is right in front of you for something else, and they're looking and seeking, and you can raise your hand and say, oh, wait a minute, I
Mm-hmm.
do that too. So versatility is a powerful tool to have in your toolbox.
Amen to that. And I always stress that to people. That's one of the main things whenever somebody asks, like, what is your advice? Be versatile. Because, first of all, you never know how things are going to evolve and change. Like the social media world we're in, the podcasting spaces we're in, these did not exist the way that they do now 5, 10 years ago. So, had I not tapped into being able to, adjust and pivot, I wouldn't be able to thrive in these spaces. So, it just gives you the ability to in your own way, control what you can control. And now, as things are evolving and changing, like you said, you can raise your hand. I've done that. I can do this. Or I've done something that'll help me be able to do this. And then if it aligns with who you are as a person, which for me, everything I'm doing directly aligns with myself, then it absolutely helps because you're working in things you're passionate about, and talking as a motivational speaker and being a sports reporter and writing books, they're all connected. It's all connected. So, I think it's a shame if people limit themselves because having that versatility only allows you to learn more, be a life learner, but also have other tools and skills and build that toolbox of, soft skills and things that you have that you can pull from whenever you need to.
Hmm. I saw you interviewing someone I've known since before they were born. They were in their mother's womb. Her name is Sydney Caldwell, and she plays basketball for UPenn. And you talked about, you know, the ability, and I'm taking what you said and just putting it in my words, but the ability for people to see it so they can be it. Now, what you're doing is actually some of what Sydney aspires to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
she had an opportunity to be in a position where, one, she was being interviewed by you, but she also was looking on the other side of that and like, here's somebody doing what I desire to do, and she looks like me. So that was a powerful moment for her in her life. And, Sydney, she comes from a very a successful sports family. Her mom, Kenya Caldwell, being, running track and playing basketball, running track for
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee. Her dad, Mike Caldwell, who is now the defensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars, played for the Philadelphia Eagles with my husband, Troy. So, you've got a lot of young ladies who are in your space who are athletes like you
Mm-hmm.
were and who grew up around sports, and
Right.
so sports runs through their veins, and they are eager to leave an imprint on the world of sports.
Yeah, and it's so great that you bring that up because first of all, it's such a small world. And
Yeah.
I've connected with Sydney for that exact reason. She reached out to me. I was actually speaking at an event and she was there and then connected with me after, like, you've covered me at Penn. And I was like, I know exactly who you are. I remember the knee pads. And I was like, I was like, let's definitely connect. And I have spoken through the fall at football games, and then being able to interview her was such a great moment. But as you talk about, sports are it's bigger than us, as we just saw
Mm-hmm.
with Demar, as we've been seeing with Demar Hamlin, as we've been seeing in so many different ways, and it's for me that exact same thing. My dad played professional basketball overseas. My mom played basketball. All my siblings played sports. But my best memories in life come through sports, come through that
Mm-hmm.
togetherness and family versus literally versus the family that becomes your teammates and coaches and friends. So for me, as you talk about having the ability to use sports in a way that transcends and can connect. And you talk about, you know, the Caldwells and I know you and all these different people that you meet through sports. That's what I love about it. And it doesn't matter, again, anything else. When we are watching a game, we might not always be rooting for the same team, although we are rooting for the same teams. But in general, it brings us together. And I love that I have the ability to talk about sports and encourage that conversation even more.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what moment stands out to you most from your career as a women's soccer player in college?
So there was one moment. There's always defining moments, I feel like, in our lives that kind of reassure us that, like, all right, you're in the right spot, you're doing the right thing. And it was my sophomore year was one of those moments for sure, because we were facing nationally ranked opponent in Dayton. They were number 15 in the country at the time. We were unranked. We were off to an incredible start. We were undefeated. We hadn't given up a goal all season. I think it was like 10 or 11 games in. So we were like very far in, and so we were the only team left across the NCAA that hadn't given up a goal and hadn't lost, and like the shutout streak and the unbeaten streak combined. And we gave up our first goal. We gave up our first goal in that game. We were down 1-0, and it was like, oh shoot, we gave up a goal. But we were like, we were gonna go all season having shutouts. We knew it was gonna come at some point. And we answered back. I actually scored the game tying goal and then the game winning goal in overtime, and everybody rushed the field.
Now.
And my family was there, so they rushed the field, and it was just such a moment. That goal actually ended up being like the national goal of the week, and it was like all the like it took my career and boosted it times like 1,000. It really solidified myself and our team. It put us on the national map. We were now ranked. We were now a team that people were paying attention to. I was a person people were paying attention to. And with my background in soccer, as we talk about that representation, there wasn't always that. I was many times the only one. My dad coached me in youth soccer, but as I just mentioned before, my dad played professional basketball. He didn't play soccer. So there were even questions about, like, are you actually good? Is it just because your dad's coaching you? All the politics, all the doubts and everything. So in that moment, it was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. I am really good. I went on to be named All-American. That was my first season being named All-American after my sophomore year. And it was just everything started to come into play and come into motion. Like all the hard work, all the days that I was out playing in the backyard, playing with my siblings, playing in the living room, playing anywhere I could play. It was like that moment of just affirmation and a chance for me to pause and be like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, and I can do this. So that definitely was one of the major moments as a soccer player, especially later on in my career, that really gave me the confidence. And I've had those moments since and recognized them in life. Like, that's my Dayton moment in my reporting career or in my speaking career. Those moments that just remind me, like, you know what? It may have been very hard, but you're here and you're thriving and you're fine. So that definitely was a turning of the tides in my career.
Mm-hmm. So how has your discipline as a athlete and your competitiveness created advantage for you in your career today?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, I know I would not be here if I was not an athlete. And if I was not an athlete that went through as much as I did. Because now when I face different challenges, like the same politics, I always tell people, especially someone like Sydney, someone that gets it, that's been an athlete, the same politics you face as an athlete, as a Black girl, as just in sports in general, favoritism, whatever else, you face that in the real world. You face that in your career. And so now it gives me the confidence because I'm like, I've seen this before. I don't like it, but I've seen this before. I've been here, done that. Like, nothing new. Hit me with your best shot type of mentality.
Yeah.
But because I've had those moments like that moment where I hit the game winner against Dayton, it also gives me the confidence in these moments now that I'm like, it's fine. This too shall pass. I'll get through it. Let me control what I can control, take it one step at a time, just like one play at a time, and keep chipping away until I get to what I want to get to. So it just it really has given me the confidence, and I always say like an all-American mindset, because I didn't always have that. my self-esteem, my confidence was not always there. And as I matured and as I just tapped into my faith and my relationship with God, and started getting more into reading books and reading the word and listening to different speakers and everything else, I learned a lot about myself. And through that search for my identity, it allowed me to have confidence in these moments that nothing, no weapon form, nothing can ever prosper against me. Like I've got this. One way or the other,
Yes.
I've got this.
Yes. So you've had so many moments throughout your career that you've knocked the ball out the park. So success, the level of success you've had has been so high level.
Mm-hmm.
As you are journeying through your career right now, how are you defining success so that you're able to embrace every aspect of the journey and not feel deflated if it's not the moment that's knocking it out of the park?
Yeah, that is the hard part. I think having success as an athlete, it's scoring goals, it's winning games. What does that look like in the real world? What does that look like
Yeah.
in a career? What is that feeling? And for me, that success, like I'm such a competitor. Don't ever play
Mhm.
games with me. Like I want to win. We're gonna play until I win that card game, that board game, whatever it is. Like I am very much still that same competitive mindset. So I've had to shift that and use that in a way that it's an advantage and not something that's a hindrance. So I find myself trying to set small goals. Like I journal a lot, I write things down. So it's setting small goals, it's checking off things on the to-do list. It's also, and when I try to stress to people, your success should not just be monetary, because that's shallow. There's more than that, so
Mhm.
even for me, it's okay, am I reaching people in a positive way? So when I get that feedback from like that family that I've helped their child in some way, or I hear somebody say thank you, because of you I want to be this, or I now want to be
Mhm.
a sports reporter like you. Those are the moments of success for me, because it means I'm doing my job. If I'm going about my days and I could be making incredible money and being the best job, but nobody is feeling inspired by it, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. So for me, it's about now extending the olive branch and giving back, and knowing that
Mhm.
as I'm climbing, I'm pulling along the Sidney Caldwells and different next generation reporters and just people in general, and helping them along the way. So that's one of the biggest barometers for me right now. But then also, what is my happiness? Am I going along my days and just going through the motions, or am I enjoying what I'm doing? Am I laughing, smiling, like having balance, making time for myself? That in itself is a mark of success, because there's 24 hours in the day and I use every single one of them to from the first minute to the 60th, but I want to make sure that I'm enjoying the journey along the way. So success also, crazy enough, is not just about me getting every job, every opportunity, every interview. It's about, do I have time at the end of the day for my 10 minutes of stretching or meditation, or to read a
Mhm.
book, or to sit down and watch my cheesy Christmas Hallmark movies, like whatever that may be. Those are the moments I'm like, okay, I'm living right. I'm doing it. I'm doing things the right way. So I think for everybody, you have to find like what it is within yourself that keeps you going, and that should be your measure of success. It's inspiration, balance, self-care, and then of course things like, how was my rep? How was my interview? How did I,
Mhm.
pace myself through that hit? But if it's just the career success measurements, there's nothing else. There's no balance there. And now you're putting so much stock into just one thing, and there's more to life than just our careers, even though we sometimes forget that.
Yeah. Can you talk to us about how, as a sports reporter, you prepare? Because you're in the moment. And so there's information that you can, study and prepare for prior to the live action taking place, but then you're
Mm-hmm.
in it. And then you have to go live, you have to, get into your hit. How do you prepare to be prepared?
Yeah. Well, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. And I honestly always am preparing. The craziest thing about being a sideline reporter is, one, it's actually the newest thing I've done. So you talk about that versatility. I've always hosted and anchored shows, I've always done feature stories. So sideline
Mm-hmm.
reporting, even for me, was something I was definitely not doing this much. A year ago is when I first officially started doing sideline reporting with ESPN. I had been doing color commentary and work as an analyst. So even that in itself was a shift, because when you're in the booth and you're an analyst or you're doing a story or you're doing a show, you've got time. You maybe mess something
Yeah.
up, you can come right back. When you're a sideline reporter, you have 30 seconds, 45 seconds. If you mess up that hit, we'll see you next quarter. We'll see you next media timeout. So it's like you have to nail it the first time, and it adds extra pressure. So that versatility has also taught me there's different ways to prepare for different roles. It's not a one size fits all model. So for sideline reporting specifically, I'm a very big person on like for the actual hit itself. I always write out what I want to say. I practice what I
Okay.
want to say. But once I write something down, like handwriting, not just typing, once I write something down, it sticks. Like I'm
Hmm.
fortunate I don't know if it's the ginkgo biloba, I don't know what it is, that I can remember things really well, names, details, stats, and then I also have like tricks to the trade of I use acronyms. So if I'm going to talk about what the coach said, I'll pick letters, and then as I'm going through the hit, now I can remember. Okay, can C for the coach, A for I don't even know, accolades, and for not wanting to settle. Like I have little tricks that like as I'm talking, I'm like working through them mentally. But overall the research
Mm.
never stops. You just have to continue following. You have to be somebody that loves not just who you're covering, but all things sports. Like I've thrown in references to other sports, other players, other coaches, other moments within what I'm doing. If I'm talking about lacrosse, I've referenced the NFL. If I'm talking about the NFL, I've referenced the NBA. Like being able to cross
Hmm.
reference in that way adds more substance to what you're saying, because you're not just reading a script, you're delivering, you're connecting, you're relating in a way that people can absorb it better. So I say it's not enough to just follow. If I'm covering Ivy League basketball with ESPN, that's not enough to just follow the Ivy League. I need to know all the conferences. I need to know everything going on in college basketball. I need to know everything going on in basketball. Like you need to pay attention to it all. So there's many ways to do that. The biggest one is just to be a life learner. Be willing to read articles or
Hmm.
follow games, follow on social media. I get alerts for everything on my phone, so I just kind of scroll through and see what's like skimming through what's going on in some major topics. So I think the preparation, to make a long answer short, just never stops. Just always prepare, always learn,
Hmm.
especially in sports, because there's so much crossover that it's so great to know as much as you can.
Hmm. So I know you're multifaceted, and I want to talk to you about Planet Not Buried. But before we go there, if you could create the ultimate role for you in the world of sports, what would that look like?
So I have that vision. I don't know if it will happen, but we'll see. But I love. I'll give you the true answer because I feel like I can be real. Because I don't always tell everybody this, because not everybody needs to know my goals. But I trust you. I love having conversations with people. Like I love this, and I love talking sports. So I always
Hmm.
say if I could choose, I would want to have a show. It's like a crossover between like Oprah and the Ellen DeGeneres show meets
Hmm.
sports. So like
Okay.
a daily talk show, coming on at 10 in the morning, whatever time it is that people can watch, but also being able to have it be more sports specific. So I know obviously ESPN and Sports Center have sports shows. Like I'm not talking about that type of level. I'm talking like I want to be sitting in the club chairs on the stage with a live audience, and we're talking like a sports segment. We've got live music, we've got some news and like entertainment that's sprinkled in there, but having more of a specific focus also on sports in addition to all
Hmm.
the other topics. So ideally I'd be like a mini Oprah slash Sports Center. Like just all things. Just sitting having conversation, kicking back with the mug, like gossiping about stuff. Yeah, that's the goal. But I don't even know if that's possible, but we'll see. I'm trying to make it happen.
Okay. Have you considered, because I absolutely love the idea of it all. Have you considered just starting out with just creating that type of space and doing it on a platform where you're coining, if you will, this idea? So, like, it's out there and you
Yeah.
are the one that is positioning it, and just allowing it to evolve and develop, and you really having the opportunity to put your fingerprint on it and do it how you want to do it.
Yeah, I mean that is the goal. I know when I created my podcast Beyond the Headlines, it was to start
Mm-hmm.
with that concept. So I had different segments, and a segment would be on sports, a segment would be on music. I dropped the ball. My show is coming back this year though, but I would love to do that in a live space, like be able to invite people into a studio. If they can't come in the studio, of course we can do virtual. So that's something that I'm hoping to be able to do because I want to build out, exactly as you mentioned, the blueprint for it, and then now I can show, hey, this is the concept, and it doesn't really exist. Like, if you haven't gotten by now from what I've said so far, that is my MO. Like, I don't want to be cookie cutter. I'm not trying to do what everybody else is doing. I'm not like, I just want to be on the biggest show on ESPN. I would love to do that too, but I would love to do something completely different. Like, let's bring in Troy Vincent and talk about the Eagles and his work now at the NFL. Let's bring in LeBron James and talk, like, let's have sit down conversations versus just the typical debates and everything else that we're seeing day to day. So I'm trying to build the blueprint for that. I'm hoping that I can get to that point of doing even more with it. But yeah, I'm just slowly, like, everything I'm doing again, and very intentional with the hope that it's slowly moving me in that direction towards being able to host a show like that.
Mm-hmm. So, hence the trailblazer, everyone. That's exactly what you're talking about. That's,
Yep.
who you are. You
Yep.
know that, there's some things that are inside of you that have not been done yet, but you're not afraid to be the one to do it and to
Mm-hmm.
establish that trail where other women have an opportunity to see what you've accomplished, and then they can draw inspiration and aspire to do what you've done and beyond.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And honestly, I love to think that I'm a creative mind. Like a lot of ideas that I've come up with and concept I've come up with, like I'm just always writing things. I always have a notebook somewhere because I'm always having ideas. And so, who am I to limit those ideas and
Mm-hmm.
to even diminish them? Like there's things that I'm doing now that I just started doing, like Plants Not Buried, that was an idea 7, 8, 9 years ago. Like my show idea has been an idea, and when I'm actually doing it in 10 years, it'll be like, oh wow, where'd this come from? It's been 15 years in the making, like everything has been me slow walking towards bigger goals. I'm really trying to tap into more about writing books. Because I have a lot of great books that I've already started that are not done yet. I have a couple that are done. And I'm going to be an author. Like these are things what people don't understand with success. Back to your question earlier, is it does not happen overnight. So it's hard to
Mm-hmm.
measure what that looks like because it's not like, oh, I want to write a book, bam, it's done, or oh, I want to host a show. It takes time, so you have to have along the way some different levels and barometers of small goals, those SMART goals as you're moving along to help you get closer and closer. But yeah, that show, I'm like, first of all, people love watching First Take and Undisputed over and
Mm-hmm.
over and over again. And you're getting the same topics over and over again. And I want to bring a
Mm-hmm.
show that gives you more than just those topics. And now it's not like when we think of The View and those types of shows, it's all, everybody just assumes it's just for women. No, this is going to be something for men and for women. It'll have a little bit of everything. It will have major topics and also have some other topics. But it's something that's needed in daily talk shows where you don't have that full balance of a little, of a little bit of sports and entertainment. So if somebody starts that show before me, it's fine. I will just come up with some ways to make it different.
Well, I can't wait to tune in.
Thank you.
Will you talk with us about Planted Not Buried and how that went from an idea in here to being birthed, to be a positive change for society?
Yes, yeah. So I launched it in December of 2020. So we just
Mm-hmm.
celebrated its official second year. and going into year 3 now. And so I had that, it's an idea that I birthed 2013. Like it took time to actually make it happen. And I always wanted to be able to use my platform as a sports reporter. And I remember saying, as I grow as a sports reporter, again, this is like 2013, 2014, as I grow as a sports reporter, it'll open doors for the other things I want to do. So the more I can get, and I didn't even think I'd be working with like ESPN and Fox, but I didn't even think that was a possibility this early on. I'm only going into my 7th year in this industry, and I didn't have a background. My undergrad and my grad school degree, neither of those are in reporting. So when I took that leap of faith into pursuing it, I wanted to open doors for myself. And so one of those doors was Planted Not Buried. I had this concept back then. I was like, and actually it started even sooner, because I remember as a kid, I was telling my parents, I want to be able to drive like an ice cream truck around, but instead of giving out ice cream, I would give out like food, like brown bags of food and blankets and different things to people. And that evolved as I realized I probably can't do that. Which, who knows, maybe I can at some point. And then with the pandemic, it made me realize there's so much opportunity in the virtual space. So I always envisioned it as an in-person building facility where people come in and get these resources, and realize I have such a bigger reach through Planted Not Buried in a virtual space. So I've been fortunate since launching it in December of 2020 to work with people all around the world. You know, I've connected with people in Canada. I've connected with people in the UK, in different countries. I've connected with people all over the place, and in the Uganda, and I'm to reach so many people so soon and just provide resources. You know, the concept is empowering, educating, and inspiring people through the access. So whether it's networking, professional development, being able to attend virtual events. We're actually in the process now of a huge overhaul and rebrand, because we're also going to be launching classes people can attend. So they have opportunities to do one-on-one classes or group classes that cover any topic from mental health to sports to nutrition to education to even family, marriage, how, you know, talking with parents, talking about all different topics that help us in some way. So just creating that village we always talk about, of having a space to go, a safe space where you can get those resources and feel welcome and feel included, and it not having to break the bank to do so. But I just kept finding so many people in conversations and in interviews asking me questions, such as a great example. I had a survivor of abuse and rape, and she was asking me where I thought she should go to get some support. And I'm like, God, I wish I could help you. She was a young girl, 18, 19, and I could not help her. And I felt helpless. And so now one of the things we are providing is a resource for survivors, abuse survivors, trauma, any types of trauma, that you can now come to us, and we will have resources that we can provide for that. So just being able to give help in some way has been really helpful. And now bringing in other professionals. You know, I'm not an expert in all these areas, so I'm bringing in mental health professionals. I'm bringing in psychologists and counselors, life coaches, abuse and survivor specific counselors. So just providing a space for anybody, every background, every career, every age, every race, to be able to have access. And as it grows, it will have more of a balance of in-person versus, as well as the virtual spaces that will be providing these same resources. But, it's been very exciting just to see how well it's been perceived, and people have been catching on to it and asking about it and curious about it, that there's some exciting things to come in the future for sure.
So this is our final question for this segment. What would you share with a young lady dreaming big dreams, needing inspiration to go for it?
Yes, keep dreaming. Keep dreaming, and then finding ways to make those dreams happen. Like I said earlier, it does not happen overnight. So what does that look like? Planted Not Buried is a vision that I'm working in year 3 now, but I have a 5-year vision and a 10-year vision of what I hope it will look like. So as you're working through trying to attain those dreams, also figure, what can you control? what resources do you have at your fingertips? Social media, podcasting, whatever that may look like. What are those resources you have at your fingertips that you can tap into that can help you get closer to that dream? But then also understanding that as you're on the road to your dream, there will be some road bumps. There will be some setbacks. Sometimes you have to recalculate, but you have to find a way to keep going. One day at a time, getting closer than you were the day before, because anything is possible if you just keep finding ways to keep getting closer.
So our next segment is I am bringing her to the table with me. And this is your opportunity to give virtual flowers to another woman whose fingerprint is on your journey, for you know that your career would not be where it is today without her.
Oh, it's hands down my mom. My sisters would be mad that I didn't pick them, but it starts with my mom. um, Without a doubt, because my mom, as well as my dad, but they were both the first in their families to do a lot. Getting a
Yeah.
college degree, times for each generation have changed, and each generation is, as a parent, I'm not a parent, but what I've been told is you strive to take what your parents gave you and go further. And my mom did that times 1,000. She has multiple master's degrees. She's accomplished so many things. She's been, honored and been recognized for the work she does in education. And so I had a chance to firsthand grow up seeing that representation of excellence and seeing that representation of pushing the envelope and being able to continue finding ways to juggle and master so many different things. And so through that, it showed me a lot. And my mom's had her fair share of challenges as well. And even that vulnerability of sharing that with us as kids and knowing her story and knowing all that she's overcome made her triumphs that much more special. Like, I've always looked at my mom as like, and I'm like getting chills thinking about this, but I've always looked at my mom as like a superhero. I'm like, she can do anything. Like, mom's got it. But I just have so many memories and so many, where I'm very close with my family. So looking back on all the things that we've done, mom has always been at the center of it all, like making it happen, finding a way to make it happen. And now understanding, first of all, how expensive the world is with 4 kids, I'm like, oh, you and dad really did some things. Okay. But as an adult now, I have an even greater appreciation for how she used to have 4 kids at all of our practices. We played soccer, basketball, track. We played AAU, school ball, travel, all these different sports. And we were there early, and we were there fed and dressed and with everything else, extra stuff in our bag. Mom, it's mom. So without a doubt, my mom is the reason why I am who I am. And I still, to this day, always am learning from her in so many ways.
I love it as a mom hearing, you recognize some things, and always when you become an adult, you start to see what you couldn't see as a kid. And so I know your mom, that's going to cause her heart to smile so big, and she will appreciate those flowers coming from you. So our final segment is food is love. And, this table that I established is all about being able to bring your whole self to the table. And this is a very big part of who I am. It's how I love on people and having the ability to feed them food for their soul. So this segment is especially curated for me, and hoping it's an opportunity for the people who answer these questions to also tell anecdotes through the food that they share and they talk about. So, what food best describes your personality and why?
Oh gosh, I love food. And now I'm hungry. Just one. I would say I'm gonna go with a steak. And wait, I'm gonna go with a steak. I'm thinking of my favorite foods, what I like to eat the most. It was between steak or a cake, which is interesting in itself. But I would say a steak because I think that, oh, here's why. I think that I am, and I always embrace this, a late bloomer. Like when I was in high school, I was definitely behind everybody else. Like I was always skinnier than everybody else, and I didn't really understand socially. Like because I was such an athlete, I wasn't involved. My parents did not have us like let us go out to things and do certain things, so I didn't fully even understand what my classmates were doing. And then in college is when I was like, oh, it now is starting to make sense. But I always feel like I'm like aging like a fine wine. Like I think now at 30, I probably could, I still can, because I get asked this all the time, pass for like a college student. So because of that, that whole like late bloomer type of personality of taking time to be seasoned and marinated, I think like a steak, like it's not something you can rush. And everything I've done has taken time. I wasn't the kid that in soccer peaked at 9. I peaked at 20, 21. You know, I peaked in college is when I was playing my best soccer. My career, same thing. Like I'm now going into year 7, and it's taken time. But I also understand that, and I'm fine with it taking time because I want to be ready. I want to have that appreciation that when I do get to that next level, when that steak is done and you get that first bite, you appreciate it that much more. So I'm going to go with, I like my steak well done, so it definitely takes time, but I can settle for a medium well every once in a while. It definitely takes some time, but a nice, tender, well-seasoned, thoroughly cooked steak is definitely who I am, as someone that it never happens quickly, but when it does happen, it's like, okay, that's a nice juicy steak right there.
Has food ever been healing for your soul?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Which is funny because I remember people always telling me, you just need to eat more. And I'm like, I always ate like a heavier person. Like I always ate cakes and cookies and fatty foods, and I've never watched my, calories or anything. But in all seriousness, food has been the source of so many great memories. So when I think about some of the fondest moments growing up, or even some of the hardest moments growing up, like I used to sit in the dining hall in college with my best friend for hours, and we would just sit there and be talking. People would be coming in, they'd sit with us, we'd talk to them, they'd go, and just having some of the deepest conversations over food. When you're sitting around the table and you have that moment to kind of be present, and it gives you a chance to step away from all the rigorous, of your daily routine, rigorous things you've got going on. Food unites you. So I have always found so much comfort in food and dessert, and just having opportunities to sit around and talk and connect and be able to get into some of those moments that just allow you to be present. So yes, food. I absolutely feel like it's always helped to nourish my body, but also just emotionally has healed me in so many ways to be able to talk through different things.
So, for our final question, does your family have an heirloom recipe that is passed down from generation to generation?
It's crazy because we don't. But when I tell you the way that, especially my mom's mom, the food is definitely the influence on my mom's side. My dad's side they were never too big with the food stuff. But on my mom's side is when we always had like Thanksgiving. I remember walking into my grandmom's kitchen, and it was like every single counter was just full of food. And she could cook. Oh my gosh, she could cook. And then she passed that down, obviously, to my mom and aunt. My aunts, and they were cooks, and my uncles are really good cooks. Like having, now you want to talk about incredible. I think it's incredible. My mom did it with 4, but my grandmom did it with 8, and always had full breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the table. So food has always been a staple in my family of that togetherness. And we don't have a specific recipe, but I would say definitely being able to put out a spread, whether it's the holidays or just a random day that you're going to come in and the counters will be full. That's the heirloom. That's what's being passed down for sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep it going. Things are a little different these days, but I can cook. It's just the bar is so high in my family because they are, like we always said, my grandma should have, and I'm sure like many families should have put some of her recipes together and built like a brand and built a whole business around it, because her greens and the chicken and the everything was just so good. So good. And so my mom's got that. My aunt actually works in food, so she actually did take it and make a business out of it and does catering and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of great recipes. Banana pudding is definitely one of the biggest ones that I'm trying to figure out how to make because it's so good. But yeah, all things big feasts. That's what's being passed down. My future children will thank their other generations that started it.
Now, I love that. Absolutely love that. Listen, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I thank you so much for joining me at the In Her Words table. How can people find you?
Yes, it's been a pleasure. This time has flown by. I am so glad that we were able to have this opportunity to connect, and I'm excited to have you on my show. And, I'm very easy to find. It's Renee P. Washington. So I did have to add a P in there because there is a Renee Washington that also works in news. So at Renee P. Washington on all things, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. My website is reneepwashington.com. And then Twitter is the only one that's different since my name didn't fit. It's just Renee P. Wash. But I am everywhere at Renee P. Washington, and I'm very open to even, and I always talk to people as they reach out, because I definitely love being able to connect with people that have either heard me or watched me in some way on shows and things like that. So yeah, feel free to reach out for anybody. And my work with Planted Not Buried, my work with MLB Bro, my work with Beyond the Headlines, it's all connected there.
Well, thank you again, Renee, and you are welcome at the In Her Words table anytime.
Thank you so much for having me. Keep up the fantastic work that you're doing to bring these conversations forward and to give women a chance to sit at the table and talk. So thank you.
Thank you.
Come on and stay a while.